Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning into the always informative, always entertaining, The Boxing Authorities. Joining me at the desk, as always, Luther Dupree Jr., Smoking Jim Frazier, and my name is Claudio Relosano. We have a very, very special guest today. He is the founder and CEO of Star Boxing. I believe Star Boxing has been around since 1992. Before that, he won the New York Golden Gloves while attending law school at Hofstra University, received his undergrad at Fordham. He started, as I said, started Star Boxing in 1992, promoted such great fighters as Antonio Tarver, Joe Smith Jr., among many, many others, and he has promoted close to 200, if not over 200 boxing events. Welcome, Joe DeGuardia. Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show.
My pleasure. My pleasure being with all of you guys.
All right. Joe never says no to me. He's been on the Italian show. He's been on this show. So Joe, I'm going to ask you for $100,000. Are you going to say no to that, or are you good with that?
No problem.
All right. All right. Joe, let's start off first. How did Star Boxing come to be?
Well, I was in the game all my life, and I had a fighter because when I stopped boxing, I had stopped boxing in 1988. And a lot of the guys that I had been working with in the gyms and stuff like that kept asking me for advice and help. And I had signed one of them, and after a while of helping, as a manager. And that was Lou DeVal.
Yeah.
So I signed him, and I quickly realized that I couldn't get him fights. We would get fights off it, but not ones that I wanted for him.
Okay.
And I had no choice to move this. I had a southpaw that could move, that was quick, and could punch a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to really move him was to put on my own shows.
Okay.
So I started Star Boxing basically to develop him.
Mm-hmm.
And things, got bigger and bigger, and the company kept growing, and, here we are.
You know what? One of the questions I was going to ask you later, but I'll ask you now. What are some of the obstacles as a promoter do you have to overcome and hurdle?
Oh, look, promoting is the engine of the game. So the things you have to overcome and deal with in boxing, look at any kind of potential problem, and that's what we deal with. From, medicals to family issues that the fighters have, to injuries that a fighter may have, to hoping that we can get the crowd there, getting networks, getting, venues. It's the whole gamut of everything that occurs in boxing. And, one of the reasons when you're dealing with live sports, when you're dealing with athletes who can get hurt in the gym and things like that, you always have to be able to adapt because you deal with a lot of different things.
Right. Hey, Joe, thanks for coming on. One thing I wanted to ask, how has it changed from back in 1992 to today in terms of promoting with, so many things on social media and all these different apps? What are the different challenges now than when you first started?
Yeah, Luther, it's a completely different business.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to be out there putting up posters and, going to windows and speaking to store owners and making sure your poster could be in that store, putting flyers out and having people go out there and handing out flyers and, going to train stations at 5 o'clock, getting the crowd when they're getting off of work.
Right, right.
You name it, we used to have to do. It's a different world. The newspapers were a lot more important then.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the inserts into the papers and being with the morning delivery. So many different facets of the game was so different. And look, a lot of things have changed for the better with the new world, but a lot of things are not better. In a lot of respects, it was a lot more family then, or a lot more homey, and everybody knew each other. Everybody in the game, but also outside the game. Reporters were around all the time. You would see the reporters, and get together with the reporters. It was important to cultivate a reporter. Now you don't really have that kind of mainstream press coverage the way we used to get it, even on, club shows.
Now, what were some of the fighters under your umbrella? You've had a great list on that roster. Can you name some of them? And can you name us a signature event that you had and maybe even in the upcoming future?
No, I mean, so many that we've had, fighter-wise and event-wise, it's hard to just pull one special one out. I tell you, I mean, we've had, I could just look at my weight divisions, when you look at the light heavyweight division, we had Lou DeVal, became world champion. We had David Telesco.
Yeah.
Montel Griffin. Went to Antonio Tarver, and all the years we had Antonio Tarver for his mega fights with Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins. Staying in the light heavyweight division, Joe Smith Jr.
Yeah. Knocking
it's
guys
just a
out the
whole
ring,
host
Joe
of
Smith.
guys.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah,
that was classic when he knocked the man out of the ring, man.
that was the Bernard Hopkins fight.
Bernard Hopkins, yeah. Now, I was on your website or your YouTube page, and there's a fighter behind the star, Alice Vargas. Just talk to us a little bit about him, and what was the idea behind the star, trying to get the viewers a different view of him. I think we have a clip of that we're going to run as well.
Yeah, behind the stars, it's a new thing we're starting. Actually, I'm drinking a little bit right now, and you see I got HBO, and they're not in business anymore.
Right.
And they used to do it, a series on the fighter, 24/7. Used to get information about the fighter, learn about the fighter. So we're doing that on a different scale, obviously. But we want to get the fans to start to know our guides. And we started with Alex Vargas. We think he's got a great little story there. He's an up-and-coming fighter, undefeated. And we're looking forward to further developing his career. And About the Star is one of the ways we're going to do that.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea. One of the things that I think is lacking today is that people do not get introduced to these fighters. There's a story behind all these fighters. For example, I remember February of 1990, I knew who Buster Douglas was, but HBO put on a nice segment about Buster's mother and how she passed and how Buster was dedicating this fight and his career to his mother. And that's what got me, because my mom had recently passed. So everybody has a story, Joe, and I think that's how you build a fan base. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. People have to be vested in the fighter.
Right.
It's one thing when you're watching a fight, and look, you watch boxing has some great fights, and you can be captivated by it when you sit down and you're just looking at the fight. The same thing, by the way, they say, what do people do if they see two people fighting in the street? They stop and watch it.
Right, right.
So yes, we have a sport where people can be captivated by it. But in this day and age, it's not like everybody turns on the television and you're going to all be watching Johnny Carson on, 11 o'clock at night, 11:30 at night, in the old days. So you have to, we're so, the sport and the world right now, is so pinpoint. So the only way you're going to get people that really going to tune in and look to go find your product is when they have a vested interest. And the way you get a vested interest is when you start to learn about the fighter.
Right.
Joe Smith we talked about, right? And people started to learn about him with the union and the fact that he was a laborer and all those kinds of things.
Right.
And they want to see him. More people want to see them.
Right.
And Ryan Garcia does it right now with his social media, puts himself out there, so all of a sudden you have the girls want to go watch him fight. And those things happen in the sport. Muhammad Ali is a great example of how he turned the pages around, and everybody wanted to see him fight on a worldwide scale.
Right,
But we're dealing with now a marginalized business where, people have to want to watch your product and find your product. And unlike the days where you just have 6 channels on television, channel 2, 4.
Right, right.
You could see there's millions of things to watch. So this is a way to get people vested.
All right. I saw also on YouTube you had something, Jersey City Fight Night, where you had a couple local guys. I think that's another way to build the sport, and you're in a great hotbed for it. But one of the ones I saw was Brown versus Dennis Okuth. Just talk about that fight. And I think there was also a great knockout, Chance and Diaz. That was another, I watched both of those. They look pretty good. Is that something you do with your promotion?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's important. Again, we build up local followings and local club shows. Mm-hmm. Jersey City is one example of fights that you've seen. We had in that show with the fight that you mentioned with Jair Brown. That fight catapulted him into a Showtime fight.
Right.
You talk about Ray John Chance. He's an up-and-coming, we think, one of the up-and-coming stars that we're looking for in the future. And, he had a sensational knockout on that card. We were expecting that fight to go a lot more and see a lot more of him. But those things are good, and we need them. And, those club venues I love. I mean, we have the Paramount series that we do regularly. Next one's February 23rd out in Long Island. Mm-hmm. We love the series. We developed guys like Joe Smith, Chris Algieri on that show. Demetrius Andrade fought on there. All our guys we brought through that process. And we love building the local clubs, shows, and scene. I think it's important for the game.
Okay. Now, I see you got the robe in the background. Is that your old robe from when you boxed, or is that what?
That one,
what's the significance
that
of
actually is an old one from one of my old fights.
Okay.
They're doing some renovating over here in my office, and they threw it up over there because somebody wants to put it into a frame.
Okay. I like that.
Joe, whenever you said Johnny Carson, Luther pointed at Jim and I because I said one of the great ways to promote fighters years ago was on the late night shows, the Johnny Carsons and so on and so forth. And I've been critical. Now there's more venues, more ways to promote these fighters, but I don't know if it's as successful. Use social media, yes, but I still think they have to go on these late night talk shows, and I don't know if these fighters have the right PR people to do that, to tell their stories, to show their personalities.
But Joe, is it that easy to get on these shows? I'm sure. It seems like it's a process as well, correct?
No, look, it's certainly not easy to get on there. You're dealing with the whole world trying to get on.
Right.
And I had, for example, on the Jay Leno show, Antonio Tarver.
Okay.
Right.
Now, that wasn't easy to get done.
Exactly.
Were we able to get it done? Because Antonio, before his rematch with Roy Jones, during the rematch, when the referee asked them both, as they normally do I have any questions from the champion? No. Any questions from the challenger? And Antonio Tarver, I don't remember anybody ever doing it. He says, I got a question. What's your excuse going to be tonight, Roy?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was classic.
All right. And then he knocked out Roy Jones.
Yeah.
So we were on Jay Leno that week.
Okay.
Now, there's not that many fighters that are in a position that are on HBO in a mega fight, and that happened. So that made it where we were able to get them on, but otherwise it's not easy getting on, these kinds of platforms. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that the world now has, which is somewhat good, I guess, is that you can reach people other than going through a Johnny Carson show or a Jay Leno show.
Exactly.
Where it's very difficult to get on that for everybody. But with that being said, it certainly, if you're on that kind of show, everybody who's watching TV is watching it.
Right.
So you reach that many more people, But look, a guy like Jake Paul, reaches people we don't reach because he's got
Sure.
the social media that he does.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Man, you're preaching to the choir. I've been trying to tell these dinosaurs that since we've been doing this show, Joe. Thank you for
I just
backing me up on
say
that.
use everything you possibly, use
They're
the
trying,
shotgun,
Claudio.
use everything. Joe, a few more minutes with you. What's your next event, big event?
the next one, we have a bunch we're working on. The next one that I'm excited to go see is going to be February 23rd at the Paramount.
Okay.
We just love the place. We sell it out all the time, just about all the time. And it's got a real vibrancy. They're real boxing fans. They know the sport. And it's enjoyable. We've done so many shows there. I can do shows. We've been at events everywhere from Macau when Chris Algieri fought Manny Pacquiao.
Wow. Okay.
To Las Vegas with the Tarver fight, and we just had one last month, last month with Joe Smith. To the Madison Square Garden, all these kinds of venues. But I still got in my heart, I love a place like the Paramount. It's a real club show. It's real, and it's you're down and dirty with all the people. Everybody's right there. I like that. To me, that's. I don't know, Claudio. You're in the baseball games and you go all the places and stuff like that. And I'm sure, like us, when you go to Yankee Stadium, we get fights at Yankee Stadium. It's great.
That's right.
It's always something that's dear to your heart. You might have that small little ballpark, or maybe you grew up in a little sandlot, and you go back there and it really touches you. So for me, those little club shows touch me. It's where we came from.
Is it kind of like I believe it was called the Blue Horizon in Philadelphia? Is that what it was called?
Yep.
That's what the Paramount kind of reminds me of. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah. It's the Blue Horizon, but on steroids and clean.
Hey, Joe, you mentioned all these venues. What was your favorite place to promote a fight and why? We've had a lot of guys, Madison Square Garden, they said Las Vegas. In your opinion, what's the best place, your favorite place to promote a fight?
There are various aspects to each fight venue that make it good. Like, when we went out to Macau, wow, it was, special,
Right.
I went to we did an event at a soccer stadium with Kevin Johnson against Klitschko. It was amazing,
Right.
Las Vegas has had some venues that shouty, Madison Square Garden, I go there and I fought there, so I love it.
Wow, yeah.
But I'm going to give you the promoter's answer. And by the way, I also had when Tarver fought Jones the third time, we did the fight at St. Pete Times Forum. And it was great because we sold out so quick and everybody was trying to get in, and I was getting calls from, the Dave Matthews Band and Mike Tyson. Everybody needed tickets. It was great. But the promoter answered, I'm going to give you, but it's the truth. Pretty much wherever I'm promoting, I at that time, it's like the best,
Joe, our last couple minutes. Number one, your business philosophy, and number two, how can people watch and connect with Star Boxing?
Well, connecting with Star Boxing is easy. You can go to starboxing.com. You can go to our television network, starboxing.tv, to watch our fights.
Okay.
All the social media platforms, at Star Boxing is pretty much all the way through, from Instagram to Twitter, or X they call it now, and everything else. Luther, we're in all the social media.
There you go. Yes.
And we're all over it.
You're going to give him a big head, but that's okay.
But I got to tell you something. So, Claudia, I'll tell you, I don't know it that well. A lot of the stuff gets done by Tony, my VP.
Okay, that's all right.
It looks good. It looks great
good.
out
Everything
there on
looks
social
good.
media.
A lot of times I go there and I say, what is this tweet or twit or whatever it is?
And finally, your business philosophy.
Well, look, I mean, my business philosophy is, you gotta grind. That's life. You gotta grind through life. You gotta keep going, pushing forward, and treat people the way you want to be treated. don't smack me, I'll smack you back. but I'm never going to be the first one to do that. And I'm always going to try to treat people right.
I know that's
There
right.
you go. Now, Billy Martin, I know you're a Yankee fan. Billy Martin used to say, I don't throw the first punch, I throw the second 25.
This is true.
Joe, we're going to let you. Oh, I'm sorry,
Well,
Luther.
one question I got to ask this. Some of my favorite fighters came out of New York: the Tysons, the Riddick Bowes, and the Shannon Briggs. Anybody on the horizon we need to look out for coming out of Star Boxing, heavyweight wise or other? But of course, everybody loves the heavyweights.
Yeah, look, the heavyweights are hot now again. Can
Yeah.
you believe all those years the heavyweight division was dormant, and now it's hot again. Mm-hmm. I might have a surprise in the heavyweight division that's coming up. It's not done yet, so I got to hold my tongue
Okay.
and not speak too soon.
All right.
But as far as guys you should look at, I'm going to give you the promoter's answer again. Go to
Yeah.
starboxing.com.
There
all
you
of our
go.
fighters.
There you go.
Yes.
Joe, you trust me when I tell you, you always have a home here. Whenever you want to promote something, you get to me, and we'll put it up. You can come on as much as you want, and I respect you and like you. We haven't even met yet, and I appreciate you always taking time for me. Thank you so
No,
much.
all the time, and I appreciate you guys, Jim and Claudio, Luther. I appreciate you guys because, you're doing what needs to be done for boxing is keep putting stuff out there. And that's important. Whether it be social media, Johnny Collins, important we're out there.
Hey,
All right.
thanks a lot,
Thank
Joe.
you, Joe. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
right.
We'll
All
talk
right.
soon.
Speaking
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Okay, everyone, we hope you enjoyed that interview as much as we did. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with the boxing authorities.
Great.
Welcome back to the Boxing Authorities. Luther and Jim, thoughts on Joe DeGuardia and the interview? And please don't brag too much.
Well, I would have liked to ask the question, but
Jim.
wasn't nothing thrown at me. But I enjoyed you guys.
Jim,
I'm not gonna answer that.
Like we put a muzzle on him. You just like we
gave
have an
up.
interview Jim and just smile like a mannequin over there. There's Jim smiling, not a question. No questions asked. I'm gonna call you the Clarence Thomas
Like a mannequin.
of the boxing
Like a
authority.
mannequin.
Just like Clarence Thomas, he went for years, didn't ask a question on the Supreme Court. That's Jim. Jim, aka Clarence Thomas. Listen, man.
Great analysis, right?
Great analysis.
Oh, man, Luther.
Yo, Joe is a great. Oh man, I can't wait. We got to get out there to go to a couple promotions, man.
I think he'll be, well, Vinny makes the Hall of Fame. We'll definitely run into Joe, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure. But
yeah.
I would love to go to New York. We should
we
go on
gotta-
the road.
Yeah, we got to take this on the
Take
road,
it
man.
on the
See some of
road.
those guys.
And I don't
And
mean just
I
rodeo.
like that behind the scenes. I think we got to do a couple of those behind the scenes with some of these local boxers. You know, nobody's doing it like that. Nobody can do it like
We're not
us.
gonna let Claudio drive on the road.
No, you know me, I'll be out cold.
Well, we can't let. Well, I can't.
Oh,
let,
wait a minute, I heard about you.
I can't let neither one of you drive on the road. I'm about to do
about
all the
you.
driving.
You know what? We kid. I did not say that social media is not important. But Jim, don't you have to see
Yeah.
people? You know what I
Yes.
mean? Foreman, the way his facial expressions, or
Yes.
or any of that stuff. or
You guys
Vinny-
didn't listen to Joe.
he was-
That's
I
a shame.
agree.
He gave us 40 minutes of great. He dropped so many gems on you guys, and you guys are going
Yeah,
over.
he said the heavyweight division is hot. Yes.
It's hot.
Yes,
I agree,
yes,
it's
yes,
hot.
yes.
But you said
Sizzling.
it's the best ever. There's a difference.
Hot under the collar.
and best ever is a whole different thing.
Hot under the collar.
You gonna leave me alone, Jim?
Mannequin.
Listen, man.
We call him a mannequin.
And he told me, listen, I don't want to brag too much, but I'm going to do some bragging. He said it's hard to get on these shows. He said Antonio Tarver had to beat Roy Jones, one of the greatest fighters of all time, and ask him a question beforehand to get on Jay
But
Leno.
when you have a
So
guy with a
that's
person,
one guy.
There's some. I don't even watch any of these shows anymore.
Everybody
But
in the
they're
world
brutal.
is-
these stars. I don't know who the hell they are.
Because they want you to bring an already built-in audience.
And
They're
if
not
I-
into promoting you.
get that.
You
That's a
gotta
good point.
bring. You got to bring an audience.
Luther,
so,
that's a
so,
good point.
so like
When there's a
Jake
big
Paul
fight, they
or
could get
Logan
on.
Paul,
Garcia
they're
could
not
have got
bringing.
on.
That's a good
Well,
Tank
why has
Davis
Garcia
could have
been
got
on? Tank.
They could have got on.
No, they couldn't. Why
Well,
didn't they get on?
You know
Jim?
what? That is a good point, and you got me. You're
Jake
right.
Paul?
You're right.
Jay-
But
you think Jake
Jim
Paul's
makes a
been
good
on?
point too. But also at the same time, they may be a good fighter, but are they going to have the personality?
Exactly. It's
Foreman
the whole
personality. Vinny
package.
Paz
Yeah.
personality. Tyson. You know, he was Mike Tyson. Muhammad.
Well,
never
Holyfield
fails.
been on there, and he ain't very interesting.
Holyfield. He was on Arsenio Hall.
Yeah.
Sugar Ray. Well, go ahead. I threw him a softball. Go ahead.
All these guys could, but they had a name, they had a personality, they had something you could sell. These guys are still building to that level. How many times was Floyd Mayweather on
But
these
my
talk shows?
criticism was, I think you have to have somebody on your team. That's all they do. PR. We're going to
They
build.
have a PR
Well,
team. It's
Floyd
hard to
couldn't
get.
be on because he couldn't read the cue cards.
He didn't have to read. You act like he's hosting the show.
I'm just saying.
All you got to do is follow the lead, Jim. You
Canelo-
can't read the cue cards,
Canelo
and you choose to
is-
ignore him anyway.
Canelo was a pay-per-view king, and he didn't. It wasn't
He
a
didn't
big
even
prom-
speak English for most of his career,
Who?
Jim. Canelo,
So does
your
this
boy.
all say in a way, and we're not jumping around here, because some people say MMA, UFC, boxing is doing fantastically
Yes, it is.
well.
Yeah, that's why all the MMA fighters want to become boxers.
there you go.
Because
How many
that's where the
boxers
big
wanna be
money is.
MMA?
Come on now.
None.
Come on now.
Very good.
None.
What?
Boxing right now cannot touch MMA, and you guys know it. I mean, the,
Well,
the young people,
listen,
young
okay.
people love.
Well, why are
MMA
all
and
these
UFC.
MMA? What do they win a big fight? The
You're
guy
making
just
50
won. The guy just won an MMA fight. Who did he call out? Tank and Shakur
Right.
and Ryan
Because it's
Garcia.
money.
He
It's
didn't
big
call-
money.
Okay, why,
Big
Jim?
money.
They want to
Because
box
attendance,
because it's the
people
money.
watch.
I love women in bathing suits, but if I'm champ, I want to fight over in Saudi Arabia because of the money. I don't care if they covered up.
But every event that we've been to, packed. Every event we see on TV,
Yeah.
packed.
Yeah.
Pay-per-view numbers, not what they were when CBS, ABC, and
Because
NBC
listen, but there's a
report.
number of reasons. A lot of people are stealing it. They have the people are piracy. They're stealing a lot.
Well, the
So
top
all those guys
three
would have been
combat
hot.
sports is WWE,
entertainment.
UFC,
That's
and
a-
boxing. But boxing is climbing. I mean,
You
gotta
think-
say what it is.
WWE,
The young
that's
people love
entertainment. That's
boxing.
like
The young
watching a
people,
movie.
young.
But I'll tell you
UFC.
what, say what
But
you
the
want,
money's in
boxing is doing
boxing.
well.
The
The money's in boxing.
And why? Because
The
there's
number one
attendance.
money maker
There's
is in
their
boxing.
attendance. Now, you know what? What do you think about, now Joe mentioned HBO gone. Showtime has one more event. When we were growing up, even though there was CBS, ABC, NBC, then ESPN, then USA with Tuesday night
Tuesday night
fights.
fights, you're right.
That's 5. And then you had, ESPN, HBO, Showtime, USA, CBS, NBC. You had 7, 8, you had your pick. Now, what?
Well, listen, you're absolutely right, and I agree with you. But now everything is moving towards an app. Now, Showtime
How
is out
about
of
older
boxing.
people, 50s, 60s, 70s?
You got to get on the boat, Claudio.
And
That's
there's
what
a
I'm
lot
trying
of
to tell
baby
you.
boomers in that.
Yeah,
age
exactly.
group.
So now you said Showtime's out. Now where's PBC going? Look for them to go to Amazon Prime
Fox
or another app.
is
What
done
are you going to
too.
do with the
Fox is
baby
done.
boomers? They don't do the apps. So there's still a market. for it.
Everybody's going to. It's moving that way where everybody's going to do that.
Now,
The
forgive
younger
me for the
generation-
stupidity, because you're the tech guy here, not me. I'm just the eye candy. No, you're good with that stuff. When you say apps, as soon as you say apps to me, I'm thinking phone only.
No.
You're t-
It's phone, TV, computer. It's everything's connected. Because the Zone, you could watch it on your phone. You can watch it on TV. You can watch it on a
Why-
computer.
To ask you a question, boxing is doing great. Why are all these networks dropping? Fox, Showtime, are they not? Reggie Jackson used to call it fiscally responsible. Are they not fiscally responsible? They just like I know DAZN with giving Canelo that kind of money wasn't smart, in my opinion.
Well, I don't want to get too technical, but with
Sponsors
a boxing match, you have to pay the boxers a certain amount of money. You got to pay all this. A reality show, you don't have that overhead right now. It's the promoters, it's what you have to put out. So you can make more from these other things. Why are people going out? Jill, you wouldn't know nothing
he
about
asked
this.
the question,
I'm
why
telling
are
you
these
why.
other people
Because,
dropping boxing shows?
and I'm trying to tell you if
No,
you
you're
let me
talking
finish.
about the reality show.
No, I'm
we ain't
saying-
talking about women going wild.
Jim, okay,
We-
let me try to break it down for you, Jim.
Please do.
The overhead for boxing is a lot higher, and we've had people tell us that, but you didn't ask any questions, so you probably forgot it. They said to pay the boxers, to pay this person, to pay that person.
So you saying
and
HBO and
boom.
Showtime can't afford to pay the boxers?
They choose to move in other directions.
Like
Yes,
what direction?
to the reality
Oh, now
shows,
I know
to a
what you're
different
talking
things.
about. Okay,
They're
okay.
moving to
Less
other
overhead.
directions,
You
less
put the
overhead.
cart before the horse.
That's what I'm trying. If you
Okay,
let me
now.
finish instead of interrupting me, Jim, you could learn something. Just like Joe was trying to tell you something. If you would have asked the question or listened better,
All I
you would
heard-
understand what I said.
All I heard was it was a great interview, and he said that heavyweight boxing is hot.
That's
So
all you- that's all
was
you
a great-
focused on.
Joe was a great
How
interview.
did HBO? How were they able to afford such huge fights, such as Lalon Leonard and Buster and Ty, all those big fights?
But here's also what you have to figure out. Who did they attach to? They attached to some of the greatest boxers
Right.
ever. Mike Tyson.
Sure. Sugar Ray.
You know, Sugar Ray. All those guys. Evander had big fights. Roy Jones. Floyd
Stormin'.
Mayweather. And what happened?
Everybody.
But then they started going another direction, trying to promote Triple G's, the Lomachenkos, and they didn't have that following. You have to have the boxers,
Well, you're
and you have to
wrong.
have
But
the
when the overhead
personality.
be low-
That's a fact.
No, you're wrong.
What's
because
the-
right
how am I
now,
wrong?
What's moving the dial is legalized gambling. And for these
Shit, what are you
people,
talking about?
For
Like,
these,
boxing was always
Boxing was
legalized
up. What are you
gambling.
talking
for
about?
these
Jim?
people, but I'm talking about in every city and every borough. And for these people to move away now, for HBO and Showtime and them to move
HBO
off
been
of
going
boxing
for
now,
about.
with all
HBO's been
this
going for 10
online
years.
boxing.
Jim, HBO's been
I'm
going
just
for
saying,
about 10
for
years,
example,
brother.
this is the time to take advantage of that legalized boxing,
were
legalized
who,
gambling
boxing?
market. Yeah, why would you drop, if you're HBO, why would you drop boxing now when you got legalized gambling, people coming on commercials every 5 minutes?
But legalized gambling is baseball, basketball, football, hockey. But I think boxing was always illegal. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah,
It was
Jim,
illegal?
Legal.
legal, Jim. What are you
Well,
talking
it was
about?
only
People-
legal in Vegas. We couldn't bet on boxing here. I could with Macaroni Tony, but I had to change my name to get away from him.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Jim,
so-
they're all leaving it because of the
But,
reasons I
well,
said.
you're-
And
you're
it's all moving to apps.
Well,
I've tried
yeah,
to
you
tell
got
that
100
years
of them
ago.
apps on your phone.
And it's on the TV and the
Question, though,
laptop.
you made a
all
good
gotta
point.
move on.
You said when they went to Loma and Triple G. But is
They,
there
they attached to the wrong guys.
okay,
That was a
but
problem.
is there less over? You don't have to pay Triple G and Loma as much as you did a Floyd.
Right.
But nobody's following those guys. They didn't have a big following. The Lomachenkos, the Triple G's, the Sergey Kovalov. Nobody. They weren't
Maybe Triple G and
localized.
Loma did.
They did
Yeah,
not have. They did
yeah,
not have a
yeah.
great following. They
Or
tried
was
to
it
push them that way.
All over the world, their following was
Well,
great.
why did it
And
fall
the
off?
Klitschko's
Jim?
were HBO
Why
for
did it
quite a
fall
while.
off, Jim? Why? Because they didn't have the following. They didn't have the personality. It's a whole combination. We're talking about the greatest era, Jim, and these guys aren't it. They're
what you-
good fighters.
So what you're saying is really all three of us really don't know the reason why.
I told you the
Well,
reason
you
why.
know,
You don't have a
said
clue.
Sponsorship, like for the example, USA, ESPN, ABC, CBS, NBC had to have been sponsorship.
Right.
You know, we're gonna have a boxing show. Then you go after the sponsors. Maybe it started to dry up a little bit.
Joe
This
told-
is the worst product that football has ever seen
Oh.
in their career.
But they're going crazy.
And the money's going through
You're
the
right.
roof.
That's a great point.
So-
he is right. Football right now.
Tell me I'm right, Lou.
You can sell football. Listen,
Tell me I'm
You know,
right.
you know what? You know what? It's
You can
it's
sell-
like
you can-
this. In baseball, they say Luther Dupree's not rooting for Andrew McCutcheon, he's rooting for the laundry. In football, they're not, it's almost like they're just rooting for, they like the sport because the game
Yes.
actually is being paid horrendously.
Yes.
So to your point, they just want to watch football.
More
Am I right?
dinosaur talk from you guys.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Listen, man.
They just like football.
They love football and they're attached to. It's a whole city. You have a whole city everywhere.
But
I go.
he's right, though. It is
Everywhere I
being
go,
it's
there's a
terrible.
Stiller bar. Everywhere I
Right.
go, you know, you can find. So there's already a build and
But
attachment to
the
it.
product is horrendous.
There's not. I was just in Columbia, South Carolina.
To
There's
you,
not a
the
Stiller
product
bar
is
there.
horrendous.
There's not a
Luther,
Stiller
16
bar there.
points, 15 points, 3-yard
I saw
patterns.
San Francisco put up 42 against a
Here's
10-1
what
team.
happened when Luther flies in with the rest of the Steeler fans. They put a flag up in the bar so everybody comes. This is the
it's a bar,
Steeler
Steeler
bar.
bar.
I don't have to do it. I
Last
already
week
know
it was
where
the
they are.
Raider bar.
Listen, man. Listen. Listen, I tried to help you guys.
Gullible,
Joe
Will.
tried to help you guys, and you all still
I
won't
can see
listen.
why Arsenio Hall ain't on here no more. Y'all some gullible
What,
people.
what, because he had too many boxers? Anyway, listen,
Will
Floyd,
it ever go back? I'm sorry, go make your
I want to talk about Floyd Schofield.
Okay,
This
all
guy is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you all saw it. They call him Kid Austin.
Yes.
He's already said he's been in the ring with the Shakurs, the Tank Davis, the Devin Haney's, and he said he gave it to them all. He had a fight this weekend. just a power in both
That guy
hands.
wasn't exactly Rocky Graziano or
No,
Tony
he's
Zale.
yes. Oh, but look at the power.
what the
he
hell?
looks like a young Floyd Mayweather the way he's laying this guy
And
out.
who that guy look
He
like?
got a lot of forehead. I know that.
He got a lot of power in both hands, Joe.
Yeah, I like him.
He's a beast. He's a beast. I mean, what do you guys think about him? I think he can be a player very, very soon. That's how good.
I want to see.
Like 140, 135, 140.
And he's coming around at the right
147.
time because
He
those
can hit
guys
all
at
those.
140 are moving up. But I think you have to. He's right on the right path. He's doing well. But I think again, I don't want to go crazy anymore. I really never did. I need to see him against different competition. See what he does.
Of
See how-
course. But you can see skills.
What would
can
I
see
say about Big
skills.
Baby Anderson?
Is he related to Stephen A. Smith?
I said Big Baby Anderson.
Listen,
a lot of tools.
Right.
But I want to see him get hit. And he did. Now I like him even more.
I can't believe you like him.
Listen,
He got beat by an old man with bags under
Who'd he
his
get
eyes.
beat with?
He was
Who'd he
hurt.
get
He
beat
was
with?
Prince Charles
Prince
Martin.
He
Charles
didn't
put
get
it on him.
beat. He got hit and showed hard.
Yeah.
He showed
Against
the
a
chin.
guy that
He
had
showed
2 days'
everything.
notice.
He's a
A
former
37
champion.
years
It was
old.
more than 2 days.
He
Stop.
can hit.
Stop.
Mark.
And
He
you
can
know
hit.
Prince Charles is older than you, brother.
Oh man.
Give me that.
Leave Prince Charles Martin alone.
When
man.
would you put him in against a top 10?
Well, he's still climbing. He's with Golden Goy Promotion, so he's not getting the hype that he should. They got to do a better job of
Is he
promoting
from
these
Philly?
guys.
You milking him
You know,
like
you-
you did Boozy?
You know,
We're
you
not gonna
brought
talk
up.
about Boots.
I'm sorry, you brought up
Golden
Goldboy.
Boy.
What's going on with him and Ryan Garcia? You see, Garcia is not happy,
Yeah. I mean,
and he's a
what's going to happen in 2024? Look for Ryan Garcia to part ways, to take him to court and get out of that contract. And Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins aren't supporting him like you would think a promoter.
Why?
I have no idea. I personally, this is my opinion, I think what he did to fight with Tank Davis, they didn't want him to take it then. And because he negotiated pretty much on his own, they got a smaller percentage. Good point. So he might have got 30 million and they got a smaller percentage because he basically did that fight on his own without their
Good point.
But Jim,
backing.
if he did do that, you're still under contract.
You're still under contract,
We don't,
so-
we don't have to do anything. If you did it, that's fine. We still
Right, but
get
you
our
don't
cut.
get you don't get as much as that.
Why?
Because you didn't negotiate it. He negotiated.
But he's
get
still
it.
under contract.
He's
though.
still under contract, so he pays you his percentage. He knows exactly what he's getting. That's the great thing about Al Heyman and PBC. The fighters get more of the purse than the promoters because it's a promotional company. You're not a
All
promoter.
fighters get more than the promoter, bro.
What I'm saying, the promoters say everything. No,
Thanks, Ralph.
Listen. Well, according to some fighters that fought on the Dawn King and Bob Arum, that
Well,
wasn't true.
without going into names, he's got a point.
No.
Without
Why
going-
why do so many fighters suit Dawn King and
And
suit
you know who
Bob
I'm going to
Arum?
say. You know who I'm going
Why,
to say.
Jim?
I'm not going to go into that, but he does have a point because they do nail you.
Yeah.
They do nail you.
Yeah, and that's why those guys have stayed in court. Dawn King and Bob Arum, fighters have sued them for over 30 years. 30 years.
Yeah. No, you make a good point. All right. Well, when we come back, our popular segment, Boxing Mailbag. So come on back to media authorities. All right. Come on back to the boxing authorities. Welcome back to the Boxing Authorities, our popular segment, Boxing Mailbag. Please continue to send your great comments and questions at boxingmailbag@yahoo.com. This is Dazzle. At least I hope I read that right. New York
Dazzle?
City, Dazzle.
Dazzle?
Watching old fights with Sugar Ray Leonard, Larry Holmes, Jerry Cooney, Ray Mancini. There were stars in the audience. I don't see that as much. Am I right or am I wrong?
It depends on what fight you're watching, because the fight I saw with Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, I saw stars all throughout that fight.
Thank you,
So
Ryan.
the bigger ones, I see it. Tank Davis,
Magic
he has
Johnson,
all the
right.
guys, all the guys. Denzel Washington is in the crowd. You have all the boxing fans when Tank Davis fights.
And
Some of the other
we
ones
just
maybe
talked
not.
about what Schofield. We just talked about Schofield. Being that Luther said he's 2 years away from cracking the top 10, there was no stars there.
Well, listen, that wasn't.
I'm glad you shoehorned him in.
First of all, he was an undercard of a Ryan Garcia,
Wow.
and
That
But
could
you
be-
did. That was one of the things. Whenever you saw the fighters, like on HBO, they would
Yeah.
show all the
They would
people
show-
coming in, and
Right.
then you'd see them in the audience. You know,
Frank Sinatra.
Sinatra, Tom Jones.
Yeah.
You've seen all those guys, and Magic. One time at the Boom
See
Boom
my
fight,
magic?
Matt Johnson. You saw Willie Stargell
He
or
must
George
have been taking a
Brett.
break.
But yeah, it's a good comment. It's a good. That's a good comment. Okay, Howard from Brooklyn. Luther, I agree with Luther that these guys
You're a
should fight
smart
each
man.
other. Sometimes 2 times, but on the business end, I agree with Claudio and Jim. I watch a lot of boxing shows. Oh yeah, I'm stopping. Okay, let me read that over. I agree with Luther. These guys should fight each other. But on the other hand,
Stop right there.
business-wise, I agree with Claudio and Jim. I watch a lot of boxing shows, but to be honest, compared to you guys, they are boring. No joke. Keep punching. Thank you, Howard from Brooklyn. We appreciate
Love
it.
it.
LD. Oh, damn.
LD.
Luther, that's you. Shannon from Toronto. I am binge watching the Boxing Authorities. Great show. You guys are great. Thank you for being so positive about female boxing. You mean me and
Yes.
Luther. I also appreciate your knowledge of the current fighters, Claudio and Luther, women fighters. Thank you as well. Jim, you are driving me crazy. LOL.
He does that to us all. You
He
feel
does
our
that to us.
pain.
How come when these boxing shows back in the day used to be at a hotel, or we never see Wilt?
Oh, gosh.
Well, Muhammad fought. Remember, there was a very famous picture of Wilt and Muhammad where
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah,
that was in
that
the
long
studio.
arm.
They
That
were
was in the
thinking about
studio.
fighting.
Well, they were. If Ali would have beat Joe Frazier, they was gonna fight.
Oh, was that?
Yeah.
That? Okay. Okay. Lee from Calgary. Claudio, how'd you meet Donnie Lalonde? I wrote to a company that I know a lot of former athletes, and these people were dealing in that
He's a
world.
made man. To make it sure. He's a made man.
And then and they said, talk to our head of sports director. I said, okay, who is it? Donnie Lalonde. I said, the boxer? He go, yeah. And I've always loved Donnie. You're a huge fan. So I connected with Donnie in November of 2014, as a matter of fact. He wrote me back, said, call me tomorrow. I called him, and I'm such a wonderful guy. And Donnie and I are very close. Love Donnie to death, and he'll be on our show again. And that's how we met.
I've heard it said like this: put Claude in a room with somebody for 2 minutes, they'll come out loving them, and
I appreciate
that's
that.
their best friend.
Thank you. I
It's the
appreciate
truth.
that, brother. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. Okay, question. Terry from Dallas. I am very disappointed in some of the name fighters never fighting. Ruiz, Teofimo, Charlo, although he did fight. They rarely fight. Wilder, too, although Wilder is fighting.
Can't wait.
How can you build a fan base out there without you fighting? Question. Do you guys like to base busyness or fights on a round? In other words, if you only fight once, twice a year, do you base it on how many rounds they fought in a year? Like if a guy fights 3 one-rounders, we'll fight a 4th time, or rounds, Luther.
I like them to fight as much as possible. I mean,
Rounds or fights doesn't matter.
fights. I'd rather fights. Like this once a year fighting, I really can't get into. You can't build a fan base, momentum, or anything, and then you lose skills. If you look at it, when these guys are out of the ring 2 and 3 years. Jamal Charlo looked pretty good, but he showed a lot of rest. 2.5 years is way too long. Now, he had other issues. There's other guys like a Gary Antoine Russell that's just fighting once a year.
Yeah, where's he at? That's your boy.
That's my guy.
Andy Ruiz.
Andy Ruiz. He got dropped from the rankings because he hasn't fought in so long, and
he
nothing's
should.
on the schedule. It's a shame he wouldn't fight Deontay Wilder. Missed out on a big payday.
Huge payday. Jim, do you go by how many rounds they fight, how many fights?
Well, Ruiz never got a contract.
Oh,
from
Jim,
Wilder,
why
but,
did he get dropped for the rankings?
It's a combination. You know what I mean? I believe in. I'm old school. So
We know
backward,
that.
because boxing used to be the #1 sport on the planet.
we know that.
That's where I
You
come
real
from.
old school.
And I believe that the
Grandpa.
guys should stay healthy. You got to want to fight. You should. It's in your blood. We just talked to Joe. I bet you Joe was fighting all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And he wanted it.
And we talk about LaMotta and Sugar Ray. How about Sugar Ray Leonard after he fought Durant? He said, I want him 6 months later.
Well, I ain't giving that credit. I ain't
I'll
giving
talk
him
to you about that.
Yeah, that's-
those guys. And
those
Muhammad,
guys wanted
after
to fight.
wars, did he take a year and a half off?
No, never. I mean, those guys,
Deontay
it was a different
fought a
level.
one-rounder that he dominated and hadn't seen since.
Stop. Wilder's been trying to get fights, and he wouldn't fight him. He wanted to fight Usyk immediately.
Okay,
he
but
wanted to
you
fight
mean there's
Fury
nobody in
again.
the top 15? Because he's not a champ.
Listen,
he
he-
can fight whoever
listen,
he wants.
He
Jim.
can fight
No, no,
anybody he
And I'd
wants.
rather make
But
4
you,
million
it
than
takes
0.
2 to tango.
Anybody
Claudio.
would fight
Nobody. No, they won't. No, you want a certain amount of money.
Well,
That's why Andy Ruiz wouldn't fight him.
No, Wilder wants a certain amount of money.
He deserves it. He brings
wants
the
Fury
crowd.
money.
That's why he's
he don't
headlining
deserve
the
Fury
fight.
money.
That's why he's headlining the fight in Saudi Arabia, Jim.
Okay.
Well, that, you know
Your
what?
hate-
He got you
your
there
hate-
because that's a
your hate has
huge
been
card.
proven wrong again, Jim.
And Wilder is headlining. He's the dog
sir.
in that fight.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Co-main event.
Well, they're not calling it that, though, I don't think,
Yeah,
are
they
they?
call it a co-main event.
But to me, it's the guy who's fighting last.
Well, by
Although,
by
having
Webster,
said that-
by Webster,
Having
it's
said that, I know we
co-main
got to
event.
wrap up, but having said that, WWF years ago, when Bruno Sammartino would fight whoever and Bob Backlund was the champion, they said co-main event, but
it was Bruno.
It was Bruno. Yeah, good point, Jim.
Wilder's no Bruno.
All right. Well, as always, we hope you enjoy our show as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Boxing Authorities.